Alright, this time we were talking about one of my favorite doubles Pokemon, which is Reuniclus, which has 17.27% usage in December 2021, and it was the 10th most used doubles Pokemon in that month. So yeah, first of all, what makes Reuniclus good? It's an amazing Trick Room Pokemon. I would argue it is the best Trick Room oriented Pokemon in MMO doubles. Why? Well, it has insane power, and with the life orb, you have no recoil thanks to Magic Guard. So basically, its ability mitigates the main downfall of life orb, which makes it a very strong attacker in that regard. And yeah, it's very much the centerpiece of any hard Trick Room team. Like any hard Trick Room team wants to play Reuniclus, just for the sheer power of Reuniclus. Like because when you're playing Trick Room, you're on a constant timer. You have only like such a limited amount of turns to make things happen. So you want attackers that can actually make use of those 4 turns, and Reuniclus is one of those mons. Um, yeah, then it's also like Reuniclus is used in non-Trick Room teams to counter Trick Room. So a lot of the times, teams that are not necessarily as Trick Room oriented are playing Reuniclus just to make the opponent's Trick Room harder. So basically, if you're reading opponent going for a Trick Room, then you can just switch in your own Reuniclus, and suddenly you're pressurizing them when they got their Trick Room up. So it's not only used in Trick Room teams, it's also used in fast teams as a measure to counter opponents' Trick Room. And then something that's not as popular anymore, but the double dance Reuniclus, which means having acid armor and calm mind, is also a very viable set, which some people also use. And when it's set up, it can very easily just absolutely just like sweep teams completely. But yeah, then what challenges Reuniclus faces? Well, the two biggest threats to Reuniclus are Tyranitar and Zizor. They are pretty much everywhere. They are the first and third most used Pokemon in doubles, which Reuniclus has very tough time against. Especially when not in Trick Room, but even especially in Trick Room, most of these mons can take one attack from Reuniclus on standard cases and KO Reuniclus back. So the existence of these two mons makes playing Reuniclus sometimes a little bit difficult. Oh yeah, lastly then, just redirection. So when you have a Trick Room up, just having Follow Me Togekiss, for example, even though it does a lot of damage from Togekiss or Blastoise, it still buys enough time for non-Trick Room teams to tank a few hits. And so Reuniclus cannot really take down the opponents that it considers the biggest threats, but it has to target Follow Me Pokemon, which kind of leaves it open, kind of in a vulnerable position. But yeah, then about the nature and EVs, the most common set is just a simple, quiet 252 HP, 252 special attack with minimum speed IV, and yeah, sacrificing a special attack it just hinders what Reuniclus is good at. But this is one benchmark that I recommend to think. So when you put 52 defense EVs in addition to the 252 HP, you're guaranteed to live a crunch from Tyranitar. And by crunch, I mean just a simple, from a Chople or a normal Tyranitar. If it's Life Orb, then you no longer will live it. But because most Tyranitars are Chople, with 52 defense EVs and 252 HP, you can guarantee to live a crunch from Tyranitar, which is... I think it can be a very reasonable benchmark to consider when building your Reuniclus, but it's up to you. But yeah, and then about Double Dance Reuniclus, the Acid Armor or Calm Mind, it should be max HP, max Special Defense, Calm, and I would argue that way because you have much. You can only boost your Special Defense very slowly. So you can only boost your special defense by 1, basically. where you can boost your physical defense by 2. So you can set up your physical defense much quicker than you can set up your special defense. This is why having a more special defense in Reuniclus allows you to have more balance, in a sense, on your bulk, or at least I would argue so. But yeah, then about the moves, for the standard sweeper Reuniclus, yeah, you want Psychic Trick Room and Focus Blast, not much argument there. And yeah, some people have asked me, why do you use Psychic over Psyshock, especially people who are playing OU? Well, I would argue that you don't need to hit special walls in doubles. Like, even if you would face some weird special wall like Blissey or Chansey, they're not really a problem in doubles because you have your other mod that can take care of them. So it's just better to get the maximum power by using Psychic. Then yeah, you need Focus Blast to hit dark types, especially Tyranitar. Otherwise, you're just getting fully walled, as well as hitting Scizor. So you just need Focus Blast. Like, you can, you can hate the accuracy all you want, but 70% is still better than 0%. So it's in that way, it's, if you get countered by dark types 100% of the time, that's still like worse than losing them to 30% of the time. So even though it's a very unreliable move, you still want to use it. But yeah, last move can be lots of things. You can use Shadow Ball to pressure opponent Reuniclus, or like Slowking, Swirlbro, any Trick Room mon that is basically a Psychic type. Then because of the overwhelming popularity of Scizor and Metagross, some people are actually starting to use HP Fire as the last move. To basically have additional means to them, which kind of makes sense because Trick Room Pokemon are generally kind of weak to Scizor and Metagross. Like a standard Trick Room core, what do we want to say? Like Tyranitar, Reuniclus, Hariyama, they're all pretty weak to Scizor and Metagross. So having HP Fire, sorry, can be a very useful move to have, even though it does have it has very limited coverage. You're essentially only using it for mostly one Pokemon, but it might still be worth it. But yeah, then also Protect, simply for positioning, especially if you're playing hard Trick Room. I would say Protect is probably the must-have 4th move, because a lot of the time when it's like the last turn of Trick Room, you will protect the last turn of Trick Room, so you can position yourself to set up the Trick Room for the next turn. So Protect in terms of like improving your positioning can be crucial. And then if you play the Double Dance Reuniclus, which I talked about, then that's simply Calm Mind Acid Armor recovers stored power, which basically the purpose of the set is to just set up to the max and just sweep with a stored power. Then items, yeah, if you use Trick Room Sweeper, I would recommend to use Life Orb. Just for the upsides that I said, you're literally not even taking recoil, and you still get the 30% boost, which is quite insane. Some people play Leftovers, not a fan of it, but yeah, some do it. And then lastly, if you play Double Dance Reuniclus, then you can use Leftovers for longevity, but also one interesting option is Rocky Helmet for Double Dance, which actually makes Reuniclus win 1v1 endgame against Tyranitar. So basically, eventually Tyranitar will be forced to use Crunch and Superpower on Reuniclus, and when Reuniclus is fully set up, it's not going to take a lot of well, it's not going to take much any damage at all. So basically, you're forcing Tyranitar to kill itself against Reuniclus, even though Reuniclus has literally 0 coverage attacks on Tyranitar. It still wins the end game if you use Rocky Helmet. If you don't use Rocky Helmet, you potentially risk losing a PP stall, basically. So yep. Yep. So for Trick Room Reuniclus, you want ways to enforce Trick Room. You want Fake Out, you want Redirection. Yeah, you want the focus away from Reuniclus, because if you're facing 2 attacks while setting up Trick Room, even though Reuniclus has amazing bulk, it might not just be enough to survive that. So having Redirection or Fake Out kind of makes you enforce Trick Room better. Yeah, and then for double dance Reuniclus, you want redirection because you need time to set up the the coal mines and acid armors. Without redirection, it's just a sitting duck, and it's Reuniclus, even though it has a nice bulk, as I said, it's very often dead to 2 attacks. So yeah. And then lastly, counterplay. This is actually a copy paste from my Crobat. The first point will actually apply. Priority is actually a surprisingly good way to beat Reuniclus. So for example, even though it has Trick Room up, it's still prone to priority. Then, as I said, Tyranitar and Scizor are one of the best ways to counter Reuniclus, and also Hydreigon also keeps it kind of in check, although Hydreigon has a tough time actually one-shotting Reuniclus and it's prone to Focus Blast, but the dark types as in Tyranitar and Hydreigon are among the best ways to make sure that Reuniclus at least has to make reads if it wants to make use of Trick Room. But yeah, that's about Reuniclus. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.